Hello, hello, welcome to my channel. We've been experiencing some difficulties. Apologize for the slow uploads. Subscribe to my channel and comment below. We are reading Joshua 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 today. This section is titled The Gibeonite Deception. Yeah, it sounds like in Star Wars, the Phantom Menace, the Gibeonite Deception. Now, when all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these things, the kings in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea, as far as Lebanon. So remember, Lebanon is to the north, way up there. The kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. These 6 groups were mentioned earlier in the Holy Bible. So our God, the Lord, wants them exterminated. They came together to wage war, all 6 of them, against Joshua and Yehoshua. His name is Yehoshua. That's another way to pronounce it. And Israel. However, when the people of Gibeon heard what Yehoshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse, a deception. They were lying, they were trying to trick them. They went as a delegation whose donkeys were loaded with worn out sacks and old wineskins. You gotta pay attention to the old wineskin reference here. Cracked and mended. They put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. All the bread of their food supply was dry and moldy. Then they went to Yehoshua, in the camp at Gilgal, and said to him and the Israelites, "We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us." The Israelites said to the Hivites, so they are Hivites, one of the 6 groups of nations or people that they are instructed to destroy. "But perhaps you live near us, so how can we make a treaty with you? We are your servants," they said to Yehoshua. But Yehoshua asked, "Who are you and where do you come from?" They answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country, very far away, because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth." Right now, time out. When we read Christians, please hold on for a second, everyone. Isn't there something called Gog and Magog? Let's keep those things in mind. Gog and Magog. Verse 11, "And our elders and all those living in our country said to us, 'Take provisions for your journey. Go and meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Make a treaty with us. This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you, But now see how dry and moldy it is? And these wineskins that we filled were new, but see how cracked they are. And our clothes and sandals are worn out by the very long journey. The Israelites sampled their provisions, looked at them, but did not inquire of the Lord. Then Yehoshua, made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors living near them. They were the Hivites. So the Israelites set out, and on the 3rd day came to their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. The whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered, "We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them." They continued, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly." So the leader's promise to them was kept. Then Yehoshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you deceive us by saying, 'We live a long way from you'?" Why did they say they live a long way away from them, while actually you live near us? You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of my God. They answered Yehoshua, "Your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So Yehoshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day. Let's go to Joshua 10. Joshua 10, it is titled, this section, next section is titled, "The Sun in the Sky." The sun stands still. Now, Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem. So this is not the same city. It is not. This is a long time ago. It could be in an area that is close to where Jerusalem in Israel, modern day Israel, is, but this is a long time ago. So Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Yehoshua had taken A and totally destroyed it, doing to A and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made a treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. He and his people were very much alarmed at this. They were very alarmed, shocked, because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than A, and all its men were good fighters. So Gibeon just sort of surrendered to Israel. So Jerusalem, a long time ago, they were alarmed because Gibeon just, when you play sports, you could forfeit, or you could, like, I don't wanna play, there's no, don't want to fight, you don't want to play. So Gibeon just did not fight Israel. But in not fighting, they had to serve Israel. They had to be their subjects. So Adoni-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, appealed to Hoham. It's probably more like Koham. That's how to pronounce some of these words. The H is like a Hoham, king of Hebron. Piram, king of Jarmuth. Japhiah, king of Lachish. And Debir, king of Eglon. Come up and help me attack Gibeon, he said, because it has made peace with Yehoshua, and the Israelites. Then the 5 kings of the Amorites. So, a long time ago, Jerusalem was against God's people. The kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces. They moved up with all their troops and took up positions against Gibeon and attacked it. You may ask, how is that against God's people? Remember, Gibeon is subject to Israel, so in a way it is an attack against Israel. The Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua. See, they contacted Yehoshua in the camp at Gilgal. Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us, help us, because all the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us. From the hill country. So Yehoshua, marched up from Gilgal with his entire army. So you ask, why did he respond? Again, because they are subject to him. So it is, for example, Puerto Rico is sort of a part of the United States. It is a commonwealth, I believe. I'm not an expert, but if someone attacked Puerto Rico, I think the United States Army would respond and help defend Puerto Rico. So Joshua marched up, including all the best fighting men, the Lord, that's God, the Creator. Remember, he is Jesus. Spoiler alert. Jesus Christ, the Lord. The Lord said to Joshua, Yehoshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. In my earlier videos, I propose, I am thinking that do not be afraid of them. Doesn't mean Joshua was afraid of them, I'm afraid. Do not be afraid of them means don't hold back, just smite and destroy them. For I've given them to you, you will win, just crush them. Not one of them will be able to withstand you after an all-night march from Gilgal. I can relate. Joshua, Yehoshua, took them by surprise. The Lord, that is God, the Creator, threw them into confusion before Israel. So Joshua, Yehoshua, and the Israelites defeated them completely at Gibeon. Israel pursued them along the road going up Beth Horon and cut them down all the way to Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel on the road. So this is his entire army. As they fled before Israel on the road down from Beth Horon and Azekah, the Lord, our God, the Creator, hurled large hailstones, these balls of ice, but large ones, down on them. And more of them died from the hail than were killed by the swords of the Israelites. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua, Yehoshua, said to the Lord, our God, to the Lord, in the presence of Israel. So Joshua said to the Lord, he prayed, he shouted to the heavens, to the Lord. He probably screamed, Lord, really loud. And his army was all there, hearing him speak to God, right on the battlefield. Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Aijalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies, as it is written in the Book of Jashar. So remember, Joshua is saying to the Lord, these things. So, I am not as commanding as, sorry, that was a long gap. I am not as commanding as Joshua. But I would ask, if it was me, I'll be like, Lord Jesus, may it be so that the sun stops moving through the sky, and the moon, when the moon appears, it also stops. So it must have been a very strange sight, because usually the sun moves across the sky, right? Then it sets, and then you kind of see the moon. So the sun, it moves to the sky, it stopped. But hour after hour, when you look up, you can see the sun change position. So hour after hour, as they were fighting. Because in verse 11, this is not quite happening in the order of time. It's just Joshua and the army were killing these people, and it was taking a long time, hours. And then, of course, you know that the Lord himself was involved in the battle, because he threw down these gigantic hailstones. So the sun must have just stopped. So that means there's sunlight. Because usually the sun has to set and then the moon will arrive, right? So the sun must have stopped, and then the moon must have appeared to move through the sky and then stopped too. The moon is smaller. It stopped. So, it must have been bright out, and then you could see the sun. You see the sun and the moon. Sometimes usually during the daytime you see the moon, but they must have been frozen in position, in the sky. So the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. There has never been a day like it, before or since. A day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. So because the Lord wanted to win this battle, he fulfilled the great Yehoshua's request to freeze time, sort of. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. The next section, 5 Amorite Kings Killed. Now the 5 kings had fled and hidden in the cave at Makkedah. When Joshua was told that the 5 kings had been found hiding in the cave at Makkedah, he said, "Roll large rocks up to the mouth of the cave and post some men there to guard it. But don't stop. Pursue your enemies. Attack them from the rear, and don't let them reach their cities. For the Lord your God has given them into your hand. So here it doesn't mean attack, like punch them in the back. Pursue your enemies. So their enemies are running away from them. So Joshua is saying to keep chasing them. So Yehoshua and the Israelites defeated them completely, but a few survivors managed to reach their fortified cities. The whole army then returned safely to Yehoshua, in the camp at Makkedah, and no one uttered a word against the Israelites. Joshua said, "Open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out to me." So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they had brought these kings to Yehoshua, he summoned all the men of Israel and said to the army commanders who had come with him, "Come here and put your feet on the necks of these kings." So they came forward and placed their feet on their necks. Yehoshua said to them, "Do not be afraid." So possibly that means don't hold back. Do not be afraid. Don't hold back. Do not be discouraged. That means use your might, be strong and courageous. It means use a lot of power and strength and courageous. Follow through. This is what the Lord will do to all the enemies you are going to fight. Then Yehoshua, put the kings to death and exposed their bodies on 5 poles. And they were left hanging on the poles. They were probably impaled. I mean, this is a pole, and you take the guy, right, and you just throw him on there. There. And they were left hanging on the poles until evening. At sunset, Yehoshua gave the order, and they took them down. So they took the bodies down at sunset from the poles and threw them into the cave where they had been hiding. At the mouth of the cave, they placed large rocks, which are there to this day. The next section is titled Southern Cities Conquered. That day, Yehoshua took Makkedah. He put the city and its king to the sword and totally destroyed everyone in it. He left no survivors, and he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Makkedah to Libnah and attacked it. The Lord also gave that city and its king into Israel's hand, the city and everyone in it. Joshua put to the sword. So Israel today I call it modern day Israel. It is a country that began in 1949 or 1948. This Israel is ancient Israel. Israel is actually another name for Jacob. There is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So Joshua, this great general, he is a descendant of Jacob. Abraham and Isaac are, Abraham is Jacob's grandfather, and Isaac is Jacob's father. So a lot of the Israelites, they are the descendants of Abraham, but not all of them. The ones that are ruling, the ones in charge of this entire group, they are the descendants of Abraham. So, is this group the same as the people in Israel today? Mostly the answer is yes, but I really don't know. So much time has passed. Some of you have studied the movement of peoples, people groups. In a certain country, sometimes you can have an entire group being moved out and an entire different group come in, and it's like the same area of the world. So, I don't know, you would have to ask a real expert. So the city and everyone in it, that remember, it's ancient Israel. And right now, the country of Israel that we see on a map, it only begun in 1949. So he left no survivors there, and he did to the king. Okay, so you really just treated the king of Makkedah's body badly. Verse 31. Then Joshua, Yehoshua, and all Israel with him moved on from Libnah to Lachish. So remember, these are all the cities or territories or jurisdictions of the 5 kings that dared to attack Gibeon. And then, of course, they knew eventually they would have to fight Israel. So they moved from Makkedah to Libnah, and now they're going to fight Lachish. So he took up positions against it and attacked it. The Lord gave Lachish into Israel's hands, and Joshua took it on the 2nd day. The city and everyone in it he put to the sword, just as he had done to Libnah. Meanwhile, Joram, king of Gezer, had come up to help Lachish, but Joshua defeated him and his army until no survivors were left. Then Joshua, Yehoshua, and all Israel with him moved on from Lachish to Eglon. They took up positions against it and attacked it. They captured it that same day and put it to the sword and totally destroyed everyone in it, just as they had done to Lachish. Then Joshua, Yehoshua, and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron and attacked it. They took the city. I hear a question. I will address it. They took the city and put it to the sword, together with its king, its villages, and everyone in it. They left no survivors, just as at Eglon they totally destroyed it and everyone in it. A city must have a king. Remember, even in European countries where they have royalty, there is a line of succession. So as soon as they hear the king is dead, right, they have a backup guy. The next guy in line will just become the king. So Joshua killed all these kings. So in these cities, they had the next guy in line to the throne. So, some people, wait, I thought the king died. I thought they killed them all. And then, there's another king of another place. Either that, or you might think I'm lying, but if you think of Egypt, before they left, the Pharaoh's name was Ramesses. But if you look on the internet, his father's name was also Ramesses. And he might have had a cousin named Ramesses. It's true. Usually, their name is something like Ramesses Joe, and then there's another guy, Ramesses Jack, for example. Okay, so verse 38, then Joshua and all Israel with him turned around and attacked Debir, not De Beers, no. have heard of De Beers. De Beers is a diamond company. They sell diamonds. Then Joshua attacked the diamond store. Give me those diamonds. No. He attacked a city named Debir, capital D-E-B-I-R. They took the city, its king, and its villages, and put them to the sword. Everyone in it they totally destroyed. They left no survivors. They did to Debir and its king as they had done to Libnah and its king, and to Hebron. So Joshua subdued the whole region. He just conquered it, and as he showed them, he figuratively put his foot on their necks, subdued the whole region, including the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes, together with all their kings. He killed them all. He left no survivors. He totally destroyed all who breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua subdued them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the whole region, Region, of Goshen to Gibeon. All these kings and their lands Joshua conquered in one campaign. It's impressive. Because the Lord. Why? Because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Yehoshua, returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal. Thank you for listening to our readings of the Book of Yehoshua. Remember, keep God first. He might destroy someone for you. No, keep God first. He'll take you places. Well, I have to say, ever since the Son of God, Jesus Christ, provided for the purification of sins, God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, He is no longer the angry God, because something known as the sin problem, and there's a lot of sin, has been solved. Sin angers God, but through His sacrifice, He wiped it all out Himself, and He provides a way for you to be washed from your sins. It is through believing in Him, Jesus Christ. You might ask, why, Jimmy? That's my name. I ask, Jimmy, why would I want my sins wiped out? I have learned from going to church, and I hope I'm close. I hope I'm not getting it wrong, but sin can be described as debt. It can be described as disobedience, and it can be described as something like death or disease, maybe. So everyone wants a better life. I don't want to owe a lot of money. I want to be able to do a better job at work. Remember, people spoke and wrote differently back then. Like, let's say you want to bench 400 pounds, right? And you're like, body, Oh, my body listened to me, you know. You're like, whoo, and your mind is like, I could do this, and then your body's like failing you. You're like, oh, you know. So your body's disobeying. It's not quite working the way you want it to, you know. And sin could be death, you know. You could live longer, happier. So just please consider that. You know, if you want a better life, maybe you need Jesus Christ to wipe away your sins. And then you will have more money. You'll be stronger or better, you know, like on the job. And you can live longer, happier, and healthier. Have a great day.